Whiskey Jason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Today I'm in Ireland. I'm by the distillery Glendalough, and I have their new expression called pot still whiskey. 43%. Over here in Germany I'm paying 35 euros. In UK it's 50 euros. And the very, very special part about this is twofold. Number one, it is the first pot still whiskey here from Glendalough. Now, they did not distill it themselves. This is sourced, but it is distilled to their specs, which was 1/3 malted whiskey and 2/3 unmalted barley. I'm sorry, not malted whiskey. 1/3 malted barley and 2/3 unmalted barley. So it is a pot still. Now, you do not see the word single pot still here because they didn't do it themselves. They let someone else do it. My guess is going to be Great Northern Distillery up there by John Teeling with the master distiller Brian. Great guys, great stuff. Commissioned distilling in Ireland. Very, very well done. So this was actually aged for 3 years in a alligator char ex-bourbon barrel. So char level 4, I'm thinking wild turkey. And then what they did is they cut down some trees. So trees, as you can see here, the print, the rings of the tree. I have, for example, tree number 5. I have batch number 1. I have cask number 1. I have bottle number 314. So all this information is on every single bottle. Now what you do is you go to www.glendalough.com/ I think it's Irish -wood / and then you type in your first name, you type in the batch, you type in the tree, you type in the bottle number, you type in the batch, the cask and the tree number, and then you can actually see a video of your tree being felled. Now I've watched 3 of these videos, and each time it's like 3 minutes, less than 2 minutes, and every video is the same except for the 20 seconds of the tree falling down. Every tree looks different, and also of the barrels rolling. You get a little close-up of the barrel and you see your cask number and the tree number there. And so this is very, very interesting. So there's twofold things that are great. First, it's the very, very first time we've had a pot still whiskey distilled according to specs for Glendalough, and they've actually bottled it. And second of all, they finished these after 3 years in a 250-liter hogshead made from Irish wood. Now, to be very, very honest, this is special. Now, we know that in France there's Limousin wood that they use for cognac, and they use also for Amérique and other different whiskeys. In Germany, we have hundreds of different distilleries using German oak. We have different people using Hungarian oak. We have people using Mitsunara, Japanese oak. But so far, no one has used Irish oak before. Now, for every single tree that was cut down, they actually planted 7 new trees. Yay! Environmentally friendly, very, very nice. Bravo, bravo. Now, it's not on the bottle, but according to malt reviews and according to the contact that they had with the distillery, this is non-chilled, filtered. This is no color added, even though it's 43%. All right, so there's 21,000 bottles of this worldwide, so expect a lot of them to hit the States. The guy I interviewed here at the Dublin Whiskey Live Dublin 2019, that was, and I'm so terrible with names to be very, very honest, that was Gary McLaughlin. Sorry, Gary. He said, "Oh, you can collect all the trees." I was like, "Well," he says, "but they do taste different." I was like, "Okay, maybe they do. Actually, who knows?" So I'm gonna see. On average, the trees were like 140 years old that they cut down because in Ireland, in Europe in general, things grow much slower. In America, you have much quicker summer seasons, and in Europe, the summer seasons are a little bit shorter. And when it's 42 degrees and raining as it is right now, in Germany, trees just don't grow. And so that's what happens here. All right, so single pot still whiskey, or pot still whiskey, there's 2 new distilleries in Ireland that can do this at the moment. One of them is then Dingle. I'm waiting for the batch 3 actually to arrive at my doorsteps. And there was Teeling, batch 3. And so this was at the beginning of the year. I thought it was a disaster. Batch 1 was a disaster. Batch 2 wasn't great. Batch 3 still doesn't tickle my tongue in any way whatsoever. Um, so I go to this, and I was like, "Wah." The ending is just terrible. They're still working on the constellation of casks that go in there. There will not be a fourth batch. What they'll do is they'll just send it to the States to you guys, yay, and you're going to get the pot still whiskey from Ireland here for the first time from Teeling, and it's going to be almost okay. Now, the problem is not Teeling. The problem isn't the cask they're using. The problem is pot still whiskey, which means up to 50%, over 50% usually of malted barley just needs longer. Just needs a little bit longer in the cask. There's the subtractive and additive maturation, and the cask needs to add a little bit, but then the cask needs to take a lot out of it. And the whiskey's just not ready yet. My personal opinion. In 6 years, or 6 years old, this is going to be nice. At 12 years old, this is going to be fabulous. Think of Redbreast 12 years old. Think of a 21-year-old. All right, so on the nose. All right, I've a chainsaw. I go to the woods. Sometimes went to the woods, not often in my life, but I've been in there and I've cut down some trees before. My son now owns a chainsaw, but he doesn't use it either at the moment. You know that smell of an oak tree that's been freshly cut down, that sawdust? It's totally different than oak you get. For example, I was a cabinet maker, and kiln dried or even air dried oaks taste and smells different than fresh oak. This is fresh oak. This is still the green, sappy type of oak. Freshly cut down. There's a little bit of vanilla in there, and there's a little bit of the pot spice. If I didn't know better, and this was really, really what threw me for a loop, if I was doing this blind, a friend of mine just recently had the Redbreast 12 cask strength blind, and he confused it with a rye whiskey. And I was like, how in all the world could you confuse this with a rye whiskey? Are you stupid? And I went, this is a rye. I was like, oh no, he's not stupid. Between the unmalted barley and the rye is a very, very close similarity. I'm sure Dr. Don Livermore could tell me why about the barley enzymes and the rye enzymes that are maybe even close together here. And so I'm sure there's something to do with about that. All right, so pot still whiskey can be confused with a young rye whiskey if you're not careful, at least blind. Now over here, this is totally different. I get some wine casks in there as well, and a little bit of a fruity note, so they're using something else. Here we're using ex-bourbon casks and only Irish wood. Here, no Irish wood. So let's try it, 43%. Now, to be very, very honest, I think they made a mistake. This is at 43% hot. I'm talking like the Indiana, Kentucky hug. Now, what I've done in my German videos, I've actually diluted it down like 40%. And then that spike at the end is just gone. And that's what it really needs. Now, every single time I taste this, I always have the feeling that it's almost terrible, but it's not. There's almost too much wood, but there isn't. It's almost too hot, but it's not. It's almost too young, but it really isn't. There's almost too much influence of the Irish wood cask here, but not really. It's almost, and it's just, but it's not really. And so it's borderline the entire time, which makes it an okay whiskey. Now, going over here to the Teeling, so sorry. %, much smoother. It's okay, and then there's this bad, I get like baby puke. I get a lactose that comes back. Every time I taste it, it's like, oh, that could be okay, then what happened? This could be something of a worst whiskey watch, to be honest, over there with Ed and with Mike and so on there in Milwaukee. This is definitely not. It's like, oh, okay, and then bleh, it just drops off the chart. I think I gave this actually a D in my first review, and everyone that was at the release party in Germany was like, oh, this is so fantastic, this is so great. And I was like, batch number 1 was terrible, batch number 2 was almost terrible, batch number 3 was still not great, but not as terrible. It went from a F to a D minus to a D. And I'm sure that in 5 years, from 6-year aged whiskey is going to be actually very, very nice. It might actually be the 2, or the 3, I'm sorry, which would be a C. Wait 12 years. This is going to be like a B whiskey. Think of Redbreast 12 years old. This is going to be fantastic stuff when it's ripe, when it's mature, when it's ready. But 3 years old, pushing 4, it's just not there. You just can't do that with pot still whiskey, in my opinion. Dingle couldn't do it, Teeling can't do it, and they can't do it either, Glendalough. All right, so just cleanse my palate. Now you saw I added some water. I brought it down to 40%. The oak kicks in even more. There's a little bit more vanilla. There's a tiny little bit of spice in here, the pot spice, a little bit of cinnamon. A lot of grain. I could imagine this is a young rye still. Mm. 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 Now this is not a wow whiskey. This is a, I'm going to give it a C. A, why haven't you bought it? B, buy it. C, you can buy it. D, you don't need to buy it. F, why was it made? This is a C because you have 2 things of historical value here. Number 1, the very first pot still whiskey produced by Glendalough, according to their specifications, probably up in Great Northern Distillery. And it's okay whiskey, especially when you consider it's 3 years old. Second of all, it says here, a distinctly Irish whiskey made even more distinctively Irish because the first people using Irish wood in the cask for decades, if not even a century. Yeah! This stuff is good. This is record-breaking. This is storytelling. This is Irish whiskey at its forefront at the moment. This is cutting-edge stuff. Is it great? No. Is it okay? Yes. And therefore, I would recommend it. As I said, over here in Germany, I'm getting this for 35 euros. In England, they're paying 50 euros. In the States, you're going to pay $50, $60, something like that. Who knows with the with the 25% import, if the it's not a single malt, it's a single pot still. So we'll have to see what they do if this falls under the 25% category or not. All right. So 21,000 bottles worldwide. I definitely recommend trying it. I definitely recommend having a bottle, sharing with friends, doing a bottle share, giving him half the bottle, you half the bottle, especially when Teeling comes over. So one of you buys the Teeling, one of you buys the Glendalough, you share, you try, you notice how much better this stuff is. If you pull out a Redbreast 12-year-old, you pull out a Redbreast 12-year-old cask strength, you pull out a Power John's, and you compare them, not even a chance. All right, unless you love that oak sawdust chainsaw moment. It really is there. That oak is so prevalent. It's interesting to see batch 1, which means they're going to be a batch 2, so they'll refill those casks again, maybe let it set a little bit longer, get the same taste, maybe a 3rd time, maybe a 4th time. That's really, really interesting to see what's going to happen there with those batches, with those casks. All right, so WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American. I have 2 questions. Question number 1 is, what other areas of the world do you know that have their own oak? I'm going to steal some of your thunder. High Coast up in Sweden, I've had Swedish oak. I've had German oak, I've had French oak, I've had Spanish oak, I've now had Ireland oak, I've had Hungarian oak, I've had American oak, and I've also had Japanese oak. Do you know any other oak that has been used for casks in this world that we've had in our whiskey? If not, my second question of the day is, what is your favorite Irish whiskey? Easy, right? WhiskyJason, yeah, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American. I like this. It's not great, but it actually is unique. Distinctively Irish, as they say. Absolutely something you should think about. Wonderful done. Well, wonderfully done. The videos, the backstory, the whole idea. 2 thumbs up for that. All right, good job, guys. Whiskey Jason here. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell others about this crazy guy in Europe tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Bye-bye.